Every fall, the Milton S. Eisenhower Symposium, a student-run organization, hosts a lecture series sponsored by the university. In the past, MSE has excited and challenged students by bringing speakers like Nelson Mandela, Maya Angelou, and President Gerald R. Ford. But this year, the student response to the MSE lineup has not been unilaterally positive. In early October, several student groups, including the Hopkins Feminists, SARU, TSAGA, Voice for Choice, and the Black Student Union, circulated a petition protesting the presence of Alan Dershowitz, a prominent lawyer, professor, and political commentator. What is the content of this petition? Why has this issue become so controversial on our campus? And what does this mean in the context of college campuses everywhere? All this tonight on Politik Focus. Here with us tonight are Frances Campbell, Sophie Tolkoff, and Mesa El-Sheikh. So I'm actually going to start with you, Frances. My question for you, you're a member of the College Feminists, and you helped draft the petition that was circulated protesting the presence of Dershowitz on campus. So why specifically is Dershowitz such a controversial figure?
Well, honestly, he is a lawyer, and as you may or may not know, and he has defended multiple rapists, or multiple alleged rapists, and so for us that tells a story that he's a rape apologist, and has a manner towards rape that says that isn't really friendly towards survivors of rape or sexual assault. He also has himself been accused of rape, and has the evidence that I've seen and that other signers of the petition have seen suggests that these allegations are more than just allegations. And so we believe that having him on campus, it doesn't really provide a safe environment for either survivors or students on campus.
Okay, and Mesa, so my next question is for you. You're with the Students for Justice in Palestine. You're a member of their group. So you guys, that group released their own statement about Dershowitz regarding his presence on campus. So would you mind talking a little bit about the contents of that statement?
Sure. So in addition to, we're in solidarity with the feminist group, and allegations again about his plagiarism, we particularly take issue with Dershowitz because of his anti-Arab stance in personally attacking students that have spoken out against Israeli war crimes, and particularly labeling people who do speak out, who are pro-Palestinian, as anti-Semitic. And we feel like this is silencing in a way. Also, we have an issue with MSC in particular inviting him because the MSC has in the past invited, esteemed speakers such as Nelson Mandela, Maya Angelou, and to put a controversial figure like Alan Dershowitz on that same platform, we feel is not appropriate. And yeah, so those are the main reasons.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, there was one more thing. Also, we believe that there should be more of a balance of speakers. So this panel that he's invited on is, there's two pro-Israeli speakers, and there's not like a balancing side to counter that.
Okay. All right, and so Frances, this question is really directed back to you, but Mesa, if you want to jump in on this one as well. So in September, Barack Obama actually spoke about the protesting of controversial speakers on campus, because this isn't just happening at Hopkins, it's happened across America. So he actually argued that students should listen to and then argue with these speakers rather than trying to ban or silence speakers that they disagree with. So can you talk me through the process of how the college feminists at Hopkins chose to draft this petition to cancel his appearance instead of maybe pursuing other forms of protest or disagreement, like listening to him when he got here and then asking questions at the event, or disagreeing with him there?
Yeah, well, one of the main problems with waiting till he comes to campus and then responding to him is that he's not going to be talking about the allegations of rape. He's going to be talking about a completely separate issue. And so having that, so then he's able to ignore any comments that we might, any questions that we might have, or as being off topic. It also means that we end up not, his what he brings to the table here is his views on Palestine and not on, the issues that we're having with him.
Can I respond quickly
Yeah.
to the issues of Dershowitz
Of course.
and that the Hopkins feminists bring up? The idea that it's completely ignoring our criminal justice system, because all the allegations have been dropped of sexual assault against him. So that's saying that you just don't agree with the U.S. justice system, which is sort of problematic in the way that you're just taking a stance against it. And then also we have the idea that everyone's entitled to a trial. So to say that he defends rapists, well, he's not defending a rapist because he believes in someone who promotes rape. He's someone who sees someone who needs a legal defense, and that's his job. It's not really our decision or anyone on this campus to decide how the legal system works. So that's just like a little confusing to me about why we would choose not to bring him. And then also the idea that we need to create a safe space for sexual assault victims. That's 100% true. But why is this the point that we decide to censor? Why is he the one that we're choosing as a campus to speak out against?
Well, we're choosing him because he's coming to campus.
But we've had people come to campus. We don't decide what films are shown. We don't decide what music. A lot of music that's played on this campus can be very triggering.
That's true.
But we don't decide about any of that. Why is he the one that we're speaking out against?
Well, I mean, we can't, like, for music and films, like, we can't really say to students, like, you're not allowed to show these, like, you can't play these films because students are going to do it anyway. And honestly, like, if there were past speakers that were, like, alleged rapists, then I haven't been on this campus long enough to speak to whether they were there or not. I'm a freshman. But, like, honestly, if part of the reason why we're protesting specifically Dershowitz is that we believe that the evidence that we've seen, that we've heard from different sources is that, specifically these cases, is that it leads us at least to believe that he probably did actually rape this girl.
So you're saying you don't agree with the judge's
Right.
decision?
Right. And our legal system does have faults. It happens a lot.
Okay. And then also can I just
one more
quickly
response.
go
Yeah,
a little
we'll move on
more
to the next
into
one.
your petition? It's just interesting to me that the petition put forward by Hopkins Feminists goes into detail about things that don't have to do with this. Like, specifically, it says if there's an issue about him not his longstanding policy against debating Holocaust deniers. If we're talking about something triggering and something upsetting, as a Jew or as a minority on campus, the fact that this is an issue that he won't debate with Holocaust deniers is extremely concerning to me. The fact that this is part of this petition, I don't think a lot of people who signed it necessarily saw that or necessarily focused on that. I think sexual assault was the main issue in this petition, but why was that brought up in it?
Honestly, I believe that was brought up because it was part of, like, his book. I'm not sure. I wasn't, like, there for that part of drafting the petition. But, like, yeah. So I can't really speak to that part.
I think the points that you guys are both bringing up will lend themselves to the discussion that we'll have in a minute on PC culture, political correctness culture on campuses in a minute, because these are all instances, I think, of a larger issue, like outside of Dershowitz, that I definitely want to save for the end. So I think parts of this will come up again. But first, I want to back up a little bit. And Sophie, I know in general you're very involved on campus. So I just wanted to see, do you know anything in general about how Hopkins decides to, I mean, we have multiple different speaker events and series, but do you know how generally students decide who to bring to campus?
Well, I can't speak for MSC's decision. I am part of a lot of programming on campus, and there are a lot of factors that go into it. Your financial restraints, what your board thinks needs to be brought up on campus. I would assume that, well, from my perspective, when we're looking to bring speakers or entertainment to campus, we're looking to bring, there's usually a dialogue of what have we seen on campus and what haven't we seen, what narrative needs to be brought, what entertainment needs to be brought, what is missing from Hopkins culture that we could provide. I cannot speak at all to MSC's decision. I'm not part of MSC, but that's what I
Your
see.
understanding of it.
Yeah.
Great. So sort of in that same vein then, so you obviously did support Dershowitz's visit here and him speaking with MSC. So can you tell me why, in spite of all the controversy, as we've discussed, that you still support him coming to speak on campus?
Yeah, I just want to start off by saying I am not an advocate of Dershowitz. I'm not necessarily a supporter of Dershowitz, but I'm a supporter of freedom of speech. I think that he is bringing a narrative to campus that is interesting, and I think that whether you agree with him or not, it would be interesting to see. I am definitely not looking to promote Dershowitz. I'm looking to promote dialogue.
Yep.
There's a narrative that will be interesting when he comes. If you disagree with it, if you agree with it, go to the event, ask him questions, question him to his face. That's what I think.
I mean, that's very much in line with what President Barack Obama recently said. Would you like to?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, because I did want to add on to, I'm sorry,
Francis?
Yeah, what Francis was saying about how we should engage and this idea of having open discussion. I think like the issue we take in particular is that having someone, you know, a guest that's honored and esteemed to come speak at in a platform such as the MSC symposium, and then having a Q&A. A Q&A is not really a discussion because it's one person asking a question and then there's an answer. There is a power structure there, whereas in a discussion, a dialogue that goes back and forth, I think would be a better way to speak with a very controversial figure like Dershowitz.
What would be an example of that? If you're bringing a speaker, isn't Q&A the closest thing to discussion?
Okay, if you have a speaker, what I'm saying is that he could be brought as, I mean, you can have a different type of conversation where I don't think that he should be on a platform that's honored like the MSC symposium, where he's just like talking at people and, with all of these issues that, comes to bring up all these different groups have issues with him. Like she said, for one, you can be told that you're, off point, or, you can ask a question, but then he just answers it and then it's shut down. That's not really going back and forth.
Well, that's assuming that you're not allowed to have any response, but you're holding a mic during the Q&A session. I mean, I don't want to get into the details of how discussion works.
I think you've all made
But I do think this is important because there have been events like this before where controversial figures have been brought, and when people ask questions that are like against those person's views, some people that I personally know have been called uncivil, that sort of thing, because they're in the way that they ask the question. So I don't think that really is the best way to have dialogue.
So you're suggesting maybe something more of like a panel dynamic, like we're having here, or something like that, rather than having him just be an individual speaker, which is why you're opposed to his involvement with MSC specifically. I think you've all brought up some really valid points about Dershowitz, and I think it really is an important conversation to have, but also particularly because this raises questions about a much larger issue. So now I would like to move away from Dershowitz specifically a little bit and talk about PC culture or political correctness culture in general, because I think this is really becoming more and more of a phenomena on college campuses really across the United States. So, like, for example, just earlier this year, Williams canceled an event where Susan Finker was going to come and speak. She's a very prominent critic of feminism. And similarly, Bowdoin actually protested the presence of a pro-life speaker on campus. So what do you think that these instances and that this sort of movement says about the change in culture on college campuses, generally speaking?
I mean, I know you don't want it to be related to this discussion, but I'm going to do that anyway.
Okay, draw it back.
Yeah, I mean, in this particular instance, being politically correct is about making everyone feel safe, which I am completely for, and I completely understand. We do want everyone to feel safe. We want all minorities to feel comfortable. But there's a difference between being politically correct and not allowing narrative to come to campus. There are speakers who bring different narratives, and as Hopkins students, we all hope to graduate and really contribute to society. And we can't do that if we don't know the narrative that we agree with and the narratives we don't agree with. So being politically correct and protesting the visit, well, not protesting, but petitioning for the visit not to happen, are two different things. Because we need to know what other opinions are out there.
Would either of you like to respond about political correctness in general, or the response to controversial speakers on campuses in America?
I think it is definitely a delicate issue in balancing, like, making sure that, like, people know both sides of every issue, but also protecting minorities on campus. And I think a lot of the issue comes in that the minority groups are almost always told to listen to what the other side is trying to say and make sure you know what the other side is trying to say in such a way, or when often these are, like, spoken out constantly. So like I'm an LGBT student, and so a lot of so there's, like, I mean, violence against like LGBT students is pretty constant, and you always, like, hear it. But then advocating for LGBT rights, you still, like, are told, but what about making people feel comfortable? And so like, listening to someone's arguments on, like, that issue would be redundant because they're being spoken all of the time. So that's my view. If you want to add anything.
I mean, I think, okay, so I guess what I would add to this is that I understand, like, you know, wanting to have diverse opinions and, you know, that sort of thing, but I think that there are limits. Like, you know, I think we can all agree that, you know, that we're for freedom of speech, but we all agree that, you know, there are limits to a certain extent. And, like, again, just to bring it back to the specific incident, you know, you can't just say that we just want to have a variety of, you know, opinions on the table without taking responsibility for who it is in particular that you're bringing. Like, I still think that there should be, like, yes, you do want to have a diverse group of opinions, but, like, you choose someone because you think that they have certain credentials, and, like, when those are in question, like, I think that that's problematic. I mean, yeah, I think that, yeah, I think that it's important to have diverse opinions, but you can still be selective in who you choose
To shine the light on, basically. Is what you're
Yeah.
So I think then, so what would you say similarly to the argument that PC culture has actually gone too far, or that it's really a result of the fear of incorporating voices that aren't usually heard? So you argue that maybe there are certain voices that are constantly given more attention and are placed in more of a light and are discussed more. However, I don't think maybe a lot of Dershowitz's views were commonly held, or, like, maybe even the pro-life speaker that spoke at Bowdoin, that probably wasn't a very common view in that area. So do you think that PC culture maybe is going too far in limiting the views of those controversial speakers who wish to speak?
Well, sorry.
Yeah, I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
so,
for PC culture, there are two different things happening on each side of me. Because for PC culture, I don't see the pro-Israel stance as something that violates PC culture. It might not be the narrative that you agree with, but it doesn't, from my opinion, violate the idea that we are trying to be politically correct. So when you say we should question Dershowitz's credentials and bringing him, that's something that is very, well, it's interesting to think about, because I don't really see that I see that as trying to not bring his narrative of pro-Israel speech here, which is not even the topic of his conversation that he's asked to speak about for MSc. So I don't really see this as being part of PC culture.
Okay.
Can I just respond to that quickly?
Mm-hmm.
So I did not say that that we shouldn't have speakers that are pro-Israel. My issue is with, and like specifically the way that political correctness affects people who are in solidarity with Palestinian activism is we are oftentimes shut down as being anti-Semitic. And so I take issue with him for labeling students that support the Palestinian cause as anti-Semitic. And in that way, that is silencing, because that is a very large claim to make, that someone is anti-Semitic. And that is very problematic.
Like to chime in on this last question?
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I come from California, so saying that PC culture here has gone too far, like when my brother is going to a very, like, even more liberal college, and it's sort of, like, for me here, it's much more conservative than most other college campuses I've been to. And I think, honestly, trying to take into consideration the voices of minorities is hardly taking anything too far.
So you're saying it's allowing for others to speak up instead of those who are given more attention.
Right.
Basically. Okay, well, obviously there's been lots of disagreement, but I think that's healthy. This has been a very controversial issue on campus. I think that you all made points that were very substantive and that have a lot of value, and I do think this speaks to the larger debate on campus right now and on college campuses throughout the United States. So I really value coming here and being willing to have this conversation, and hopefully people will watch and think the same thing. So thank you guys very much for coming. Really appreciate it. And that's it for tonight on Politik Focus.